So in this video, I'm going to be discussing spoilers for Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 8, and the title for this episode is called The Shooting Star Project Zero Mix, and this episode is scheduled to release on November 28th. This episode will cover chapters 515 and beyond of the Bleach manga, with the most recent episode covering chapters 511 to 514. Credit to the Bleach wiki page for most of the information that will be provided in this video. At the end of the most recent episode, Ichigo angrily rushed toward Yuha Bach and attempted to stab him. However, Hashwalk drew his sword and had effortlessly cut through the blade of Ichigo's sword, which flew into the air and embedded itself in the ground nearby as a stunned Ichigo is left holding his broken sword. Bidding Ichigo farewell, Yuha Bach vowed to return for him prior to telling Ichigo to heal his wounds and wait as he calls Ichigo his son, born in the dark. That's where the episode ended, and now I'll be going over the spoilers for the next episode titled The Shooting Star Project Zero Mix. The 4th Division is struggling to find all the injured and take them in to be treated. Isane notes that during the battle, no one was taken in and wonders if they should have gone into battle themselves. Unohana scolds her gently for letting her feelings get ahead of her, but asks her not to cry and reminds her that Yamamoto's final order was for them to remain in the building. Ichigo, meanwhile, is told that a message from Urahara came in from Hueco Mundo, stating that he, Chad, and Orihime were safe at the time it was sent. Ichigo is relieved and thanks the person that told him this. Meanwhile, Ikkaku is screaming to be released from treatment, clearly concerned about his captain and if he had died. Hanataro offers to heal Ichigo, but he states that he already got treatment, to which Hanataro argues that it's quite obvious that he still needs to be healed. Shortly afterwards, Shinji walks up to Ichigo and states that Renji and Rukia have received treatment. Shinji and Ichigo are told that Renji and Rukia are currently in the intense care unit. Then, Rukia wakes up and after pointing out that stable doesn't necessarily mean alright, she thanks Ichigo for coming to protect Soul Society, to which Ichigo replies he really didn't do anything. Shinji objects, stating Ichigo chased away the enemy leader and he should be more proud of himself. A messenger arrives to tell Ichigo that Mayuri wants to see him about his Zanpakuto. As Ichigo heads out, Shinji sighs that Ichigo's always thinking about others and never bothered to fully heal. Rukia suddenly asks why Ichigo seemed so sad, and Shinji replies Ichigo wasn't able to save anyone, instead having Tensa Zangetsu broken in half, so he obviously feels tired. Even so, Rukia disagrees, believing Ichigo is hiding a much more serious matter. Inside the 1st Division barracks, the remaining captains are gathered before the remains of Ryujin Jaka, which is the manifested spirit of Yamamoto's Zanpakuto. Ukitake states that the body must have been destroyed by the enemy, to which all the captains express their sadness at. A messenger arrives and reports that Byakuya and Kenpachi have survived, but they may never be able to return being captains again and possibly even wake up. Soifon suddenly loses control of her emotions and screams at the messenger, asking what they have to hear next after the captain commander died. The other captains watch it dejectedly as she screams at Kensei for being so calm because he hated Yamamoto. Kensei begins to get angered as well by this, but Kamamura loses his cool as well and roars at her, asking if she thinks she is the only one who wants to scream. While Soifon is dumbfounded by his words, Shunsui enters and asks for the fighting to end, noting that if Yamamoto was still here, they all would have gotten a knuckle from him. He continues that Yamamoto would call it shameful if he found them crying in front of relics, and when Soifon tries to interrupt, Shunsui reminds them that the Gotei 13 were not created for the purpose of mourning the dead or a destroyed Soul Society. Instead, they were formed to protect it. All the captains are moved as he asks that they look forward as they are the Gotei 13. After some time passes, several captains gather outside to await the arrival of the Royal Guard. Meanwhile, at the Shinigami Research and Development Institute, Ichigo argues with Mayuri over the impossibility of repairing Tensa Zangetsu. Mayuri explains to him that while a Zanpakuto in its Shikai form can be repaired, any damage inflicted on its Bankai form is permanent. He notes that while Kamamura's Bankai is an exception to the rule, both Ikkaku and Renji are still damaged from the previous battles. Their discussion is interrupted when a large muscular cone abruptly collides with Ichigo with other members of the SRDI in pursuit. Much to Kon's dismay, Ichigo does not initially recognize him. As Kon shows off his new body, however, Mayuri presses a button on a remote, returning him to his original form. Suddenly, Mayuri receives a message through his earpiece. He informs Ichigo that the Zero Division has arrived and that they should go out to meet them. Ichigo meets the other captains of the Gotei 13 outside the walls of Serete. Shunsui explains to him that the Zero Division usually resides in the Soul King's palace. When Ichigo asks if the palace is in Serete, Shunsui reminds him that the wall around the city had fallen from the sky the first time Ichigo arrived in Soul Society. He raises the point that the wall usually protects something else before pointing to the sky, saying that they're coming. A large pillar falls from the sky and slams into the ground before them, which Shunsui calls the Tenchurin, the Zero Division's preferred means of transportation. When Ichigo expresses his surprise over the entire division being in such a cramped space, Shunsui explains that it only consists of 5 members, all of whom are former captains. As the Zero Division emerges from the pillar, Shunsui remarks that their combined strength surpasses that of the entire Gotei 13 put together. The Royal Guard makes their grand entrance, with one of their members enthusiastically greeting the Gotei 13, as well as asking them if they've been doing well. Shinji states that the Royal Guard is much more different than what he had expected. Suddenly, he is struck on the head by Kiryu Hikifune. He fails to recognize her until Kiryu tells him who she is, getting a shocked reaction from Shinji. Tenjiro Kurinji asks Unohana if she has been using the healing skills he had taught her correctly. Though Unohana confirms that she has, the Royal Guard member yells at her, saying that a great amount of people have died. Before he can continue, Ichibe Hyosube interrupts, and Shunsui asks the Royal Guard why they have decided to come. Ichibe says that they've come at the Soul King's will to rebuild the Gotei 13, but they are escorting Ichigo to the Royal Palace first. Soifon loses her temper at the Royal Guard, complaining about how they did not intervene while Serete was attacked and now talk of rebuilding. To her surprise, Tenjiro appears behind her and grabs her arm, proceeding to criticize Soifon for not knowing her place and how shameful it is for the Gotei 13 to be in such a crisis. Ichibe hits his fellow member on the head, letting Soifon pull her arm free, and tells them that they'll save the arguing for later. Senjumaru Shutara arrives with large orbs containing Byakuya, Renji, Rukia, and Ichigo's broken Tensa Zangetsu, then claims that the broken Zanpakuto's owner is the only one left. Unohana tells her that they are in no condition to leave Serete. Tenjiro says that is precisely why they are taking them, as Byakuya would die if he remains in Serete. Upon seeing Tensa Zangetsu, Mayuri asks Senjumaru if she broke into his lab to retrieve it. Senjumaru declares that she simply placed her hand on the door and pushed it open. Ichigo asks why he needs to come along, saying that his injuries are not nearly as major and that he has other things to take care of as well. Ichibe tells him that the reason they're taking him is different. Suddenly, a loud voice booms, saying that it's lucky that everyone is together. While Mayuri tries to study the communication system in Kon, Ichigo talks with Urahara, Orihime, and Chad. They are interrupted by a voice that Ichigo recognizes, but Urahara has Chad and Orihime keep the person out of view. He reassures the concerned Ichigo that he has made an arrangement to ensure that the person will not bother them. He tells Ichigo not to worry about them and do what's best for himself. Ichigo asks Ichibe if he can repair Tensa Zangetsu in the Soul King Palace, but he replies that this cannot be done. However, he states that there is a powerful Reijutsu that can only be found there, which will allow him to reforge it into something like the original. They bring the Tenchurin to Kukaku Shiba's home, where Ichibe explains that they need to use her cannon to return to the Soul King Palace, as the Tenchurin does not have the means to return on its own. After Ichigo and the Royal Guard are sent on their way to the palace, Ganju asks if it's alright to allow him to go. Kukaku tells them that they must, or Soul Society may not survive the next battle. She then tells him to help with the training of Shukoro Tsukishima, Giriko Kutsuzawa, and Kugo Ginjo, noting that she saved them from Rukongai. Ichigo and the Royal Guard then arrive at the Soul King Palace. So those are the spoilers for Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 8, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Once again, this episode is scheduled to release on November 28th. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.